Greetings and welcome to my brand new podcast, Big Gay Overall Stories of Love, Identity, and Pride. My name is Lisa Kirkman. This is my podcast, and for the large part, this is going to be my story. This is the first episode. I'm not really sure where this is going to go. As things evolve, I like to think that I can share other people's stories on this platform, but have a way of me embracing my own story and using that to maybe inspire or help or give some people some, rays of light and some shared experiences as they navigate their own journey. Um, I wanted this to be a fun project where I can tell my story, be myself authentically, and just provide a creative outlet for that stuff rather than sitting and writing a book or writing a story. I prefer to talk. It's much more free form for me. So if you're listening, thank you. If you're watching, thank you. I'm not sure if the video will make it up to YouTube at this point, but who knows? But I'm recording it and we'll see where it goes. So thanks for coming along to the start of the journey. So I guess a little about me. My name is Lisa. I am 49 and a half years old, rapidly approaching that 50. Um, Happily married to my wife. We were married in April 2023. Um, and we live out on our little piece of paradise out in northwestern Queensland, not rural, but Kilcoy, nice little country town, very quiet with our Rottweiler Dottie. And we enjoy the quiet life. We just enjoy being at home, and we enjoy um, being together and just living our best life. Um, this wasn't always my life and my journey. Clearly, I started the process of coming out, I guess, in mid 2021. So not all that long ago, but late in life, um, which had its own set of challenges, which will work. I'll work through that and talk through that on this through this podcast, which I hope to make a regular series. Again, not all about me, and I'm not saying that my story is special, but I know that when I was in the process of navigating this space, it was hard to find other shared voices or people who'd been through similar, or even people who had, not had good outcomes, when not many happy ending stories, and it was all full of drama. And I had a lot of fears and anxieties as I started to unravel this part of my life and figure out this is who I was. So I grew up um, basically in a one parent family. I've got two younger sisters. Grew up in a small country town out west, and I always knew I didn't quite fit in. Things didn't fit for me. Like, I didn't have big circles of friends and big social groups. I used to spend a lot of time on my own. I identified with and enjoyed spending time with people a lot older than me. So, like, I'd find myself doing playground duty with the teachers at school and having more adult conversations. I would sit with the adults at the dinner table and the lunch table when we had lunches and dinners with at my grandparents' house. Like, that's just kind of a role I was more comfortable in rather than even people my own age. And I never really fit in with my siblings or my cousins. There were five of us. So two of my cousins, three of us, they were all similar in age. I was the eldest. So I never kind of felt like that I had a spot. And there was always something that sort of told me that I was different and that I wanted different things, but I never, clearly being born in, 1974 baby, not really the done thing at that point where you would come out at, ironically, at any age and go, hey, this is who I think I am. And that's through the 70s and 80s. And, there's a lot of stuff around that and stigma, and it's particularly in a country town. And even as I grew into a young adult, if you happen to be close friends with somebody, then immediately, and because you weren't running around with every man in town, you're immediately a leso, or dyke, or all those sort of things, which were labeled for me for many years. And I pushed against that and insisted, no, that wasn't me. I had limited boyfriends, but I had them. Um, and I always wanted to go about my life and have all the things that everyone had said that I would never have. So I wanted to be like everybody else, even though I felt things and thought things and was like, why do I feel like I connect with this person? Why do I feel like I want to spend more time with them? But I had no idea really. I couldn't put a label on. I even had friends who, in my early 20s, would outright ask me, was I with such and such, or, whatever. And I knew the talk in town, and I was denying it because it's absolutely, that's where I was. Like, I was like, no, I'm not in a relationship. That's not what I'm interested in. That's not where I'm headed. Um, in I had a couple of long-term relationships, and that was fine, but I always felt like that there was, like, that I was kind of playing a role in a show that wasn't entirely my show, but I was playing a role, and I was playing this character, and I was doing the things that were expected. So, you finish school, you get a job, you get the house, you do the things, or, when you find a partner, then you get married and you're expected to have kids, and, here are all the boxes ticking. And that's what I felt like I was doing, essentially ticking boxes. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's like part of the journey. As I got older, I started to, think more deeply on things and ponder more deeply. And it wasn't until um sometime later in my life where, late 30s, and there was something that was sparked within me through a friend, and we became very close friends. And there was definitely an attraction where my spidey senses went, oh, this feels different. And it didn't feel wrong. It felt like, oh, this is what I should be doing. Complicated, because at that time I was married to a wonderful man who, basically supported me in whatever I wanted to do. And, our life was going along. Our goal was to pay down the mortgage, to do things. We weren't able to have children despite trying to. That just wasn't the path, which, the way that life has unfolded, that's probably been a blessing, I guess, to not layer on complications the way that life would pan out. And I never knew um, how life was going to pan out. And once that had sort of been sparked to me, and I still kept pushing it to the side, though, going, you know, this I this is not the situation I'm in. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to disrupt lives. I don't want to turn apple carts upside down. And so I pushed away a lot of stuff, which, on reflection, not the best way to deal with it. Like, you know, people will now say to me now at where I'm at in my journey, yeah, but did you love your husband? Of course I did. And, he today is still one of my best friends, and I'm very respectful of his privacy um, around, our life and then what's happened ensuing. Like, he didn't ask for any of that. But and I went into it with the best of intentions. This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. But I started to embark on a journey of therapy to work through some of the trauma I'd experienced as a child. Now, we've all carrying something from our childhood. Like, nobody sailed through that unscathed without any marks or dings. Um, my father was incredibly emotionally abusive. He was manipulative. He could be very cruel, particularly to me around, my intelligence or learning style, my weight. It's constant barrage, like, how much do you weigh? How much do you weigh? Every time he'd ring. Um, and it wasn't healthy at all. Like, the best thing my mother ever did was, boot him out. And then when I was old enough to make my own decision, I decided to cut contact. Like, I didn't want to go and visit anymore. Because I knew what it was like. And there are things that happen to me that I'm not consciously aware of. I know that they happened because of anecdotal stuff of how, I returned from an access visit to Sydney, and I was a very different child. Um, I'd started wetting the bed again. By this time, I was about 10 or 11, I believe. I had to go on antidepressants. So I was like acting out and crying and hitting and angry. But I can't tell you what happened. Something happened. I can't tell you. And, you know, he's been dead for some years now. Um, and in my mind, there's no value to me unpacking it because nothing's going to change it. But that started a process as like I started questioning a lot, like, why do I tend to be so polarizing with people? Like, people either really like me or they really don't, and they can flick from one to the other really quickly. And I could never understand that. Like, why does that happen? Like, do I find it hard to connect with people? Maybe there's something in what happened when I was a kid that has caused me to be like this around people. Because at the time, I was running my own gym business and I was having, trouble with staff and going, how do I, people would be my closest friends and then they would leave and they'd hate me like with passion, like I was everything short of being a mass murderer. And I genuinely couldn't understand it because the way that they would describe me is I couldn't connect the dots that how can they see me like this, but then all these other people see me in a completely different way and I see myself in a completely different way. And I never like I'm not perfect. I'm an asshole. I fuck up. I get that. I never set out to actually cause people stress or pain or grief or anything, but along the way I did. So I wanted to start to unpack that. And through talking through this therapist and working through some stuff is like, this is why, I went in to deal with childhood trauma and started to then unravel about who I truly was. And talking to close friends and who, you know, are gay, and unraveling some of that stuff made me go, ah, well, this is why I felt the way I do, and this is what it actually was that you were feeling. So that's a pretty big revelation to have it at, like 46-ish and a half, whatever it was, where I was like, well, like this is okay, this is okay, this is something I've pushed aside and now this is it. It's popped up, like I can't change it. And I realized that to continue to live the way that I was is going to do a disservice to those around me. And by that I mean like my family, my husband at the time, like he deserves the opportunity to go out and find someone who can make him happy because I understood then that that was not me, that I could not be that person. And I could have quite easily have stayed in that life. Absolutely. 100%. Um, but that would have been existing and not actually living. And then once I had a bit of a taste of like what life could be, then it became decision time is like, well, what do I do? Oh, I'm at a crossroads. And that was such an anxiety filled time for me. Like it was completely every worst case scenario, like, you know, how can I tell him this? Like it's everything's going to blow up, like the whole world's going to end, everyone's going to hate me, people are going to turn on me. And it's a really sticky and messy situation to kind of be in. And I sat on it for 6 months, like procrastinated. I had moved out because I wanted some time to think and go figure out exactly what I was, and that was cool. Um, but in that 6 months, I'm like, well, I knew who I was and I knew where I was headed, but how do I do this causing least carnage to everyone around me? And that was my biggest struggle for a long time. Um, and I guess I didn't have the traditional coming out story where, you sit down, you tell your family and do the thing like, and, people turn on you and people hate. And it's terrible when that happens. And I've heard so many stories. But as someone who's coming out, quite late in life and having those conversations was kind of a different thing. It's like, well, I feel like I'm starting again from scratch. But I firstly told, some really close friends who were close to me. And I think out of the people who I actually had personal conversations with, I might have had out of 20, 25 conversations, I probably had one or two people that were like, oh, okay. And they were a bit funny about it. So immediately I could move them to a different circle in my network. Like, okay, well, you're not, this is not good for you, then hey, I still love and respect you, but I'm kind of just subconsciously moving you to another circle. Um, so I had, like, I've never had a close family relationship with, my siblings, who I still have. I'm assuming my mother has told them, but I don't speak to them really. Um, to my siblings, to even with like mum, we have a very complex relationship. Um, and the reaction from people who were in my closer circle of friends was quite mixed. It was either like, wow, that's amazing, to, well, duh. And, that was always kind of a fun one, having that conversation. Go, yeah, well, duh, we waited for you to figure that out, but I always thought you were, or whatever. Um, it was interesting, but I was grateful that I had kind of a smooth path, which made it easier than when I had to have the conversation with my, now ex-husband or then husband, to talk about, this is where I'm at. And, you know, some of the first people I actually told were my business coaches at the time. And I remember it was a very profound conversation because I said, oh, I think I'm gay. Just part of the conversation. We dug into some things a little bit, which was cool. And then the next week before the call ended, we didn't really speak on that topic the next week. But then one of them said to me, I need you to do something for me. And I went, yeah, cool. What? Like, whatever. And he said, I need you to say I'm gay. And I was like, I did last week. And he goes, no, no, no. You said thought. I need you to own it. And that was a real powerful thing, from going, I think I am, to I am, and actually changing that phrasing. And I realized that's what I'd been saying, which is almost a means of protecting myself of, I think I am, rather than, no, you are. Like, as my business coach now will tell me, gay as fuck. And that's okay. Um, and, it was a very profound moment in that and, I, my now wife, who at the time, um, I would have a conversation, go, oh, guess what I did today? I told such and such. And completely unexpected as this thing, because I wasn't saying anything to anyone. I was protecting my identity. Would it ruin my business? Will the members leave? And in reality, most of it was not their business anyway. It's still not the business of most of the people that I would choose to share my life with, or anything that I do. But um, that was a concern. So I was sort of still keeping it under wraps. And even, I guess that's the start of this process. And that's kind of my backstory, is a bit of an introduction. And I will dig into that further. Like, that's just a Cliff Notes version of how we are today, sitting here having this conversation. And, you know, part of my being, I guess, and my identity is that, yes, I'm comfortable with who I am, and, I'm comfortable with my friends and where I'm at, but I haven't been comfortable, like, just being out in general. And it's stupid that we even have to declare ourselves out or in. Like, that's a whole other conversation that I'm sure will be an episode at some point. But for me, um, the thing that's been resonating a lot with me lately is about feeling inauthentic, or that what I'm doing is not marrying up with who I am and what I feel. And since I, owned, I guess, my identity and my sexuality, like, I've always looked for something to belong to in life. Like, I created my own CrossFit gym so that I had something to belong to, even though as the owner you don't really belong. You're kind of just on the outside of the circle. So that didn't really fit that. And then once I owned this identity, I sort of looked into various groups, going, well, do we need more gay friends? Like, I don't know. Like, I had a lot of, lesbian friends through playing golf for many years, and um some couples who I was quite close to, who have, now sadly passed on, but I was really close friends. Um, like they lived a relative. I remember us talking about it once. They said they live a relatively straight life, like they regular suburban house, doing regular things. They go to work, run their business, they go play golf, they do their thing, like just the same as their neighbors were doing. The only difference was that their household was two women, not a man and a woman, or whatever it is made up of. So, you know, there was a lot of question like, do we need gay friends? Do we need to do more in the community? Like, what do we need? Like, where do I fit? Where do I belong? Because even in this space, I was still trying to figure out. Well, you're not the young, hip, trendy coming out at 15, 16, whatever, that this is my life, and having that conversation with your parents who have your whole lot, who have their whole lives mapped out for them, to, well, I'm 46 years old, I'm a grown ass woman, and guess what? Now this is what, you know, makes me feel happy. And, I have never felt as, so in previous relationships where I said I felt like I was playing a part or filling a role or doing what was expected, that's been the absolute opposite experience, when I embarked on a new relationship where I could be fully in the relationship, not just kind of like exploring, going, is this a thing? Is this but actually 100% all in, no hiding, no covering, no anything. And when you can go all in, it's like, oh, this is the most natural thing in the world. I've never felt more me than ever. And in talking to my business coaches and stuff, and like my wife, and figuring out like what my actual calling in life is, like what am I here to do. Like I love coaching and coaching people, and one of my roles is to coach gym owners and other people, and we were starting to dig into like what itch is that scratching for me, like what need am I trying to meet that I never had met. And part of it is around being seen and heard. Like as a child, I was not encouraged to be seen. I was not valued. I was not heard. Um, as an example, when you like in grade 3 or 1 or 2, whatever it is, I can't remember exactly when, but you have to do reading of a, C spot run or whatever it is. And the idea is you read in front of your parents and they encourage you and da da da. Whereas like I was sent out to the kitchen at my grandparents' house while everyone else was up watching TV, and I was just reading out loud to nobody in particular. And I was always like, Lisa, stop talking. Lisa, shut up. Like it was like, stop. Don't dream about those things. Don't think about things. And, you got to go and get a sensible job. Like, my mother's big thing was you got to go and do typing and business principles because you need to get a receptionist job. And I knew at school, like, I was not going to be a receptionist. Like, that was not going to be me. That's, I want to be a teacher, a psychologist, a lawyer, like, and, I want to go to university. But those things got shut down and stomped down like really quickly. In grade 10, I applied for a school of excellence for golf down in Brisbane. That was like, that was a place you wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do. I applied despite being told no. Um, Came down for the interview with mum, and I got accepted. But then I had to tell them no because it just wasn't financially possible for us to do. Like, but no one even looked at a solution. Like I thought of a million solutions, but nope, this was it. So I had to ring up and say to them, well, I can't come. And I actually remember asking my mother, Tom, well, why'd you come to the interview if you didn't support it? And she said, just to prove to you how stupid it was that you're even doing it. And I was like, that sort of doesn't make sense. But that's kind of the environment where, it wasn't seen, it wasn't valued like what I could do. So one of my sisters was quite creative with art and stuff like that. Oh, amazing. She could do no wrong. The other one was, skinny, athletic, that sort of thing. It was just Lisa plays her golf. That's it. So it wasn't really an environment where I felt like I could thrive and was seen and heard. And so clearly, that stuck with me where I have this desire that I want people to feel seen and heard and also understand that there's a better way. So, weight has been a huge thing my entire life. It's been a struggle my entire life, 100%. And I remember when I was, discovered CrossFit and did a Michelle Bridges program and, had dropped weight, like from that point on, I wanted to be a trainer so that I could help people experience what I'd experienced. That they didn't always things didn't always have to be hard and a struggle, and you didn't always have to feel not good enough. And when I joined CrossFit, that's what I found in the community. Like I was universally accepted for no other reason than I was there giving it my best, even though I was last. I'm not designed for fast, but I am designed. I could pick up heavy things often, and I enjoyed that, and put them back down again and do it again. And I enjoyed that. And CrossFit kind of empowered me about having that strength and understanding there was power in the barbell. And it took me on a journey to being, you know, competing in strongwoman events and stuff I'd only ever seen on TV, or powerlifting and going to a world titles. Like, to the little fat kid from the bush, that was next level, like surreal. And I had this whole tribe and community of people who wanted me to succeed, which I'd never had before. And I found that in every affiliate I was a member of. So when I had the chance to own my own affiliate, it was going to be very much, this is a space where you can belong. And quite often on the journey through owning that affiliate, um, more than one occasion is like, it was described like we were a group of people that didn't fit in anywhere else, but we all fit in together and we worked like a giant tribe, which was perfectly describing what we had there. And that's what I'd wanted to create because that's how I'd felt. And even though I'd created that community, I still didn't feel like I fit in. And as the owner, you're kind of like that one step removed, like everyone's forming these friendship groups and they're doing things, but you're kind of like the coach. And so you kind of sit outside that. So during that time, I loved what I did and I loved the relationships I had, but I was still conflicted about, like, why don't I fit in? Why aren't I included? Why don't I belong? And, you know, and also at that time, I wasn't living my actual authentic life because I had all this other stuff churning around. And that held me back to a degree in being the best I could be in that affiliate for those people. That like held that back 100% because I was, you know, projecting this persona of who I thought I was and what I thought everyone wanted to see, and that wasn't actually me. Um, which could have accounted for a lot of the difficulty I had in connecting with people, like really connecting. And it's interesting that when I started like sharing with people that I was gay and my life was in a little bit of flux at that time, like the the ability that I had from then to make better relationships with people and connect with them better was just like night and day. It was ridiculous. So, you know, I think through conversations I've had recently, it's like, we look for our superpower in life and what are we called to do? And I tried last year and I did it to some limited successes, like trying to write my life story because someone had said that, your story can inspire someone else who might be in the same position, might be, uh, feeling stuck, and maybe something you say resonates. Maybe it'll change their trajectory, or your story is something powerful. But I really struggle with a flow and a context of like, what do you write about? Like, how much do you write about? How do you structure it that it makes sense? Like, where does it go? So that project kind of, it ticked along, but I was just like, this is not the vehicle. So I shelved it. It's like, well, I know what my life was. It's not that interesting. Who's going to read it? And then in conversations over recent weeks with people who are important to me about finding my niche and finding, like, I can do a lot of things. I have a lot of skills. I can help businesses do a manner of things. I can help people personally do a lot of things. I have a lot of interests, but find the thing that really comes from my soul and is authentically me that I can use to help people and um, provide some, I guess, light for people when they need it. And I had a very enlightening conversation just today. That's what started this project today. With my coach Tony, talking about, he's like, you know, the thing that you you try and create something in all these niche markets and all these niche things, but you're avoiding the great big fucking neon sign that's sitting above your head that, it's your story that you need to own and be authentic. And I haven't been authentic with some of my story because it's been challenging and it's hard, and I'm still caught between two worlds a little bit. So this is my way of breaking through that and just owning my story for me and still being respectful where I feel like I need to be. Um, and it was kind of highlighted to me a couple of weeks ago when inadvertently, thank you, Instagram. I shared a post. My wife and I went out to see Ursula Carlson, our favorite comedian. Shared the post to my private Instagram, and Instagram had changed the setting, and it shared it to my um, general Facebook account. I guess the one that I still share, where my ex-husband is still a friend, and there's mutual friends, and there's people who have no knowledge about my life change. And there it was, and it had been there for 5 hours, and I only realized like once I got home, and I was fucking mortified. I was like, oh my God. And it really flipped me because I don't want to be disrespectful to him. I don't need to plaster everything, out for a date night with the wife and stuff. And whilst I'm proud of my wife and I'm proud of our life, and like people commented on the photo that was shared that they had never seen my face so alive, which that's been a common thing that people have said to me since I've started this journey is like, in your photos now, you look genuinely happy. And when I look at other photos at the time, well, I thought I was happy, like it's a different light that's coming out now. And that's because I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, with the people I'm meant to be doing it with, and just trying to live a good life and be the best wife I can be, which I always aspired to be, but it's just easier now that I can be, I want to take care of her. I want to protect her, and I want to provide for her, and I want her to thrive in her life and be, we're active participants in each other's lives. We're not just like, okay, that's nice, off you go. Like we're actively involved in each other's projects, um and not from a controlling perspective, but from a supporting and encouraging perspective. So it comes very naturally to me to be that person now in my life. But I realize that if I'm not being that person through across all my life, then that's not authentic, and that's where some conflict has risen up, internally about, well, how do I do this? But how do I then use my story to help people if I'm not telling my story? So today I was thinking about like, okay, well, what's a vehicle for that I'm comfortable with? And maybe it's this podcast. I don't know. But I want to find a way to connect with people, to give them space to tell their stories, and to feel like that their story is seen, because all of our stories are unique. Whether you're, gay, straight, upside down, inside out, whatever. All of our life stories are unique. Everyone's had their own experiences. Everyone brings forward their own, their trauma or their joys or, stuff that they don't talk about. And that's okay. And that's what makes us unique. But we also need to be heard, and we need to be celebrated. So hence the big gay overalls, stories of, love, identity, and pride has been born today. This is the first episode. Um, I'm going to feel a bit like excuse me, I ramble on this, and that I don't know if there is a space for this, but I'm creating it and just going to put it out there. These episodes will be largely unedited because I work on a couple of podcasts, and I really um, don't watch them back when I edit it if I can avoid it. Um, I guess a little bit of background on the name, just to give it some context. Um, when we moved to the country, and I'm obsessed now with cows and the country life and sunsets and all of this stuff. My coach Tony had said something about out on the farm in our big gay overalls, so it kind of stuck, and it's been an in joke with us. But I kind of like the iconism too of the overall, because people wear overalls to cover up things, and maybe to protect and to hide to a degree. So part of what I want to do is by making them big gay overalls is make them stand out, and not so much of a protection, but as a thing to wear with pride. And to talk about stories of love and my identity and pride, in the literal sense of being proud of the journey, but also pride as in, well, we've just exited Pride Month, so I'm probably a bit late to get something like this started. But anywho, um, but also to share stories from people in the community and people who've been on a journey, regardless where they're at with their journey. Like I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't intend to be the Oprah Winfrey of, late in life coming out, anything like that. It's not earth shattering. I'm not the first person to do it, but, maybe me navigating some of this space and kind of navigating my journey as we go, which is will be some of it is unpacking it. Then, and if someone gets some power from that, then, you know, have at it. Like, I think that that's a good thing. So I'll probably wrap this one up now. Um, just a shortish. We're ticking in at like just over 36 minutes. Um, just as a way for me to introduce myself and like pull the trigger and get this thing up. But I invite you to come with me on the journey. Like I said, I don't know where it's going to lead, but if you do listen to this or watch this, then please reach out. I'm happy to chat. Um, I'm happy to talk to anybody. If you're interested in coming on as a guest to either, talk through if you have questions or want to share any aspect of your journey, then absolutely, let's do it. Or, if our paths have crossed and you want to talk about that with me, then let's do that. Again, we're going to navigate this journey together on our Big Gay Overalls podcast. So, time to button up the overalls, get to work, and let's see where this journey takes us. Thanks for following along.